Men do not self-destruct overnight. Nobody wakes up one day and decides to blow up their marriage, their credibility, their influence, or their integrity. It happens quietly, slowly, internally, long before it ever shows up publicly. What usually destroys a man is not temptation. It's untreated pain. Wounds that he learned to ignore. Disappointments that he never processed. Shame that he never brought into the light. Fear that he learned to hide behind strength. And instead of healing it, he carries it. He buries it. Or he manages it until it starts leaking. And it leaks into his tone, into his leadership, into his home, into his habits, and into his private life. What you don't heal, you don't contain. You transmit. Today, we're not talking about behavior. We're talking about the heart. Because if the heart isn't whole, nothing built on it will last. After the break, we're going to talk about where the leaks come from and why they keep happening and why God expects us to do something about it and what he expects us to do. Stay with me. Let's get to work. Unaddressed pain never stays internal. It's always going to find an outlet. If it's not healed, stewarded, and submitted, it will leak into every area of a man's life. Men don't simply outgrow their wounds. They either heal them or they transmit them. Think about a circuit breaker. When a circuit exceeds its capacity, it trips. Not because it's evil, not even always because it's broken. Sometimes because it's simply overloaded. Men who never process emotion, eventually they trip. They trip relationally, they trip spiritually, they trip morally, and they trip vocationally. Proverbs 4:23 tells us to watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the springs of life. This word watch is the Hebrew word netzar, and it means to guard, to protect, but it also means to monitor and maintain. This is active stewardship, not just passive awareness. Solomon is commanding intentional management of the inner life. Now, if Proverbs is telling us that the heart is the source, then Scripture should show us what happens when the source is neglected. And it does. Over and over and over again, in fact. Look at the pattern. Luke 6:45. For from the mouth speaks that which fills the heart. Jesus is telling us something that most men don't want to hear. You're not accidentally harsh. You're not accidentally bitter. You're not accidentally negative or accidentally explosive. You are full of something. And eventually that something is going to come out. That tone, it reveals what's in the tank. Your words reveal your wounds. Your reactions reveal what you have stored in the reservoir. Whatever you're storing internally will eventually surface externally. You cannot fake spiritual depth. Pressure exposes content. But the Bible doesn't stop there. It actually shows us what happens when you try to keep it all inside. Silence creates internal pressure. Psalm 32:3-4 says, when I kept silent, my body wasted away. For day and night, your hand was very heavy on me. David says something shocking here. He connects spiritual silence to physical breakdown. He said, when I kept silent, not when I sinned, not when I hid it, not when I suppressed it, but when I refused to deal with what was happening inside of me, my body wasted away, my strength dried up, my energy collapsed, my resilience faded. This is the psychosomatic reality revealed in Scripture. Unprocessed emotional and spiritual pain becomes physical pressure through stress, fatigue, headaches, irritability, and burnout. David is saying, I wasn't just spiritually tired, I was emotionally exhausted. I was emotionally overloaded. God's conviction plus my resistance created crushing pressure. Some of you are exhausted, not always because you're doing too much, but some simply because you're carrying too much. And if that pressure isn't released properly, it doesn't just hurt you, it spreads. Unresolved pain contaminates others. Hebrews 12:15 says, "See to it that no root of bitterness causes trouble, and by it many be defiled." Notice the language, root. The roots are underground. They're hidden. They're invisible. Nobody sees them until they crack the foundations or until they spring up in odd places and cause hazards. Bitterness is never loud at first. It starts quietly through disappointment, through a betrayal, through a loss, through somebody sliding you, through a rejection. Unprocessed, unforgiven, unspoken, until it grows. And Hebrews says it doesn't just affect you. Many are defiled. Your unresolved pain becomes a relational toxin. Your bitterness leaks into your marriage, your leadership, your parenting, your ministry, your culture. You don't just carry it, you spread it. Hurt people don't just hurt people. They train the people that they hurt how to live hurt. So Scripture gives us a progression. Luke tells us what fills the heart comes out. Psalms tells us that what's hidden builds pressure. And Hebrews tells us that what's unresolved spreads damage. Or in plain language, you store it, you suppress it, and then you spread it. That's leakage. That's how unhealed men bleed on everyone around them. So the question is not, do I have wounds? We all have wounds. Every man has wounds. The question is, am I healing them or am I leaking them? You should ask yourself, what is filling me up right now? What am I full of right now? What am I refusing to name? And who is paying the price for what I won't face? And here's what's powerful. Psychology, as it often does, confirms exactly what Scripture has been saying for thousands of years. When you suppress emotion, it doesn't disappear, it redirects. Let me show you what that looks like. Emotional displacement. Unaddressed inner issues shape your speech, shape your reactions, shape your relationships, and shape your leadership. Silence does not equal healing. Silence creates pressure. I'll give APA references in the description below if you're interested, but let me just break it down for you. Here's why pain leaks. Because of emotional displacement. When emotions are suppressed instead of processed, they're redirected into other behaviors. Freud first identified displacement as a defense mechanism. Modern psychology confirms maladaptive emotional redirection. Unfelt emotion becomes misdirected action. Men do not have anger problems, they have unprocessed pain. Gross said, emotions that are denied do not disappear. They simply find another voice. These are not personality traits. These things should be warning lights for you. Let's see if you see yourself in any of the next few thoughts we're going to talk about. Anger. Anger is most commonly unprocessed fear, shame, or grief that becomes rage. It manifests through unexplainable explosions, road rage, a harsh tone, irritability. Well, everybody, stop making excuses. Own your issues. This is often rooted in disrespect or a feeling of powerlessness or an insecurity. Anger is often grief that's disguised in some sort of armor. Do you have control issues? This is where fear turns into micromanagement, and it shows up as perfectionism or the inability to delegate or anxiety. This is often rooted in uncontrolled chaos or betrayal or an unstable authority figure. Control is fear pretending to be leadership. Do you often withdraw? And I don't mean planned strategic withdrawal where you go off to recalibrate. I mean, do you pull away and isolate? Because overwhelm turns into isolation. It manifests as shutdown, avoidance, escapism. It's often rooted in deep feelings or senses of inadequacy or a fear of failure. Withdrawal is pain that's hiding underground. What about sarcasm? Are you often referred to as sarcastic? Hurt often turns into humor. It manifests through cutting jokes, cynicism, or passive insults. This is often deeply rooted in a sense of rejection or insecurity. Sarcasm? It's just anger with a smile. For all too many, it manifests itself as addiction because pain seeks an anesthetic. It wants to be calmed. So it manifests as a porn addiction, an alcohol addiction, a food addiction, a gaming addiction, whatever the addiction is. And this is often rooted in loneliness, shame, and trauma. Addiction is self-medication. Rabbi Taub actually says that the medication of your addiction, that thing that you are medicating with, that is not the problem. That is a symptom of a deeply rooted issue that you have not yet addressed. This often shows up as overworking, avoidance disguised as ambition. It manifests as the inability to rest, getting out of the house, escaping home, or burnout. It's often rooted in a performance-based identity or approval seeking. Busyness is socially acceptable avoidance. Sometimes it shows up as emotional numbness because overload turns into shutdown. It manifests as a flat feeling effect, detachment, no joy, no laughter. It's often rooted in chronic stress or suppressed grief, things that you continue to push down. Numbness is the nervous system's last defense. Are you ever passive aggressive? When avoidance turns into sabotage? Through procrastination, forgetting, or simple resistance? Often rooted in a fear of confrontation? Passive aggression is anger without courage. Unfortunately, for a lot of men, it turns into sexual compromise. Emotional hunger seeks physical relief. So it manifests through pornography, affairs, or boundary violations. These are rooted in clearly loneliness, shame, or insecurity. Sexual sin is often emotional starvation. Why do these things keep happening? Well, it's because pain does not simply disappear. It just relocates. Unhealed men are not peaceful. They're reactive. They respond to yesterday's wounds in today's situations. Think about an athlete who ignores an injury. They keep playing, they keep pushing, and eventually it ends his career. Ignored pain always compounds. Listen, there is a cost to avoidance. If you continue to avoid the wounds that you've never dealt with, if you don't deal with your wounds, others will pay for them. Your wife will feel it. Your children will absorb it. Your team will carry it, and your legacy will reflect it. Psalms 51:6 says, "Behold, you delight in truth in the inmost being." God doesn't just want behavior. He wants healing. Strong men don't suppress pain. They steward it. Weak men hide wounds. Strong men, they do the hard work of healing them. Listen, you're not called to be stoic. You're called to be whole. Go be whole. Go be different.